with OneGuard, and so I think are we ready? Okay, but I just want you to not literally, don't be afraid to interact, because I feel like the best class you're going to get is interaction with your questions and your input and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're good. Do you want to leave the door open, Shelly, or are we good?
It's on them.
Yeah, it's on my desk, plugged in, or maybe we left it unplugged from yesterday. So to start, I just want to introduce Shelly with OneGuard. The title of this class was Leverage Who and What You Know in this market, okay, in a shifting market. The thing is you've heard probably 100 classes about how to manage this market, and I think everyone has a different approach. We're going to cover kind of one of our approaches and what I think is best. The important part, I believe, of who you know is, trust me when I tell you, I will haul in any vendor's name that I need to, especially in a market like we were in when it was crazy. If they knew my title rep, I'd name drop that. Oh, I know you've worked with Chris kind of bit at Nabby and da-da-da-da. I literally will use any aspect I can to give myself an advantage and for that agent to remember me when I'm negotiating, okay, especially if I'm representing a buyer. And I believe big in home warranties. I also believe that the biggest objection to home warranty is, oh my God, they're all the same, they're terrible, the reps are awful. And I try not to, I try not to get on social and like dispute a bunch, but there was one not too long ago on our platform for my home group, and somebody just blasted OneGuard. Nothing to do with Shelly, had not her client, but that's kind of where this class came to be, because I said, Shelly, I jumped on, and I never do that. Like, for me to do that, it takes a lot. And I said, why are you blasting a company that it's probably your rep? If you're not dealing with somebody who represents you, how can you blast a company? That would be, and I said it on social, I think she deleted the whole post because I just blasted back. But I was like, how can you, that would be like saying, my home group sucks because we have one bad agent. That's not fair.
There's a lot of that on the Google reviews for this place too. And they call out an agent and give it a 1-star.
Exactly. So is that really fair? Like, no. Are we a terrible company because we have one idiot at our company? And no, that's the point, right? Like, a company can't be judged by all of its representatives. On my own team, over the years, I've had people where I'm like, you're not representing my team the way that we have fought to represent it, you need to go. But does that mean at that time my team sucked? No. It just meant I had a bad representative, okay? And this whole case, I don't even know what happened, but my point was, at the time to Shelly, was people need to know it absolutely matters who you have working to help you. Because in the course of working with Shelly, and prior to working with Shelly, it was about 5 years ago, I was producing, maybe 50, it was just me and one other, maybe 30 to 50 deals through a home warranty company. I had never heard from the rep. I would text, hey, I have an issue, I need help. Wouldn't even get a call back. Okay, cool. So I found someone who would call me back and who would help me. And after, a year later, after I started producing 100 units and then 200 units, all of a sudden the rep was like, God, I'd really love to go to lunch with you. Delete, block. Sorry, too late. So Shelly, I'm going to let her talk about OneGuard. But the biggest thing I want you guys to remember is when you have partners, you need to build a relationship with those partners because you need to leverage the power that they can give you, either it be with your clients. That's powerful for me. I put Shelly on the phone with my clients directly, because why am I going to want to be a home warranty expert? I'm not. I'm great at what I do. Stay in my lane, you handle that, my lenders handle their stuff, my title handle. So I put her on the phone with there, and again, depending on who the vendor, you can leverage them to get a lot further with your clients and with the transaction. So, Shelly.
Hi everybody. So, my background is in education. I was in education for over 15 years. And when I moved into the home warranty world, it was not because I was just joking with Preston. Like, I didn't wake up one morning and was like, I really want to be a home warranty rep. That sounds amazing. It was, I have a family. I need to support my family. What can I do? I fell into this role. And I've been, doing it ever since. And there's nothing glorious or glamorous about my job whatsoever. But the part of my job that I do enjoy is that I get to help people. And also the interesting part of my job is that I get to see inside all of these people's business, right? So I meet with these people, or I talk to their clients, or I talk to these agents, and I see all the things they do, great, and I see all the things they do, then I'm like, oh man, if I could just get in there, you know, and if I could just help and tweak and that kind of thing. So in my background with education, I went into schools and I turned schools around. So I started as a teacher, but that's what I ended up doing. So principals would call me and say, Shelley, I need help. And that's what I did. So taking that information and that nugget and applying it to real estate, while OneGuard is different and OneGuard definitely sets themselves apart, it's also relationship building and it's learning how to leverage your partners. So it doesn't matter what partner you use, it's knowing the difference in the value that they have that's important. So as we're changing into this market, and you're kind of like, oh, wait, like we have to kind of go back to the traditional ways of real estate and the traditional ways of marketing and selling and retaining clients. It's making sure that you have some of that basic knowledge, but it's also making sure that you can think outside of the box. So on your paper, I gave you givers. And the reason why I gave you that is because I want you to think of your partners as givers, but I want you to think of it as a relationship. So the first G is gratitude. So working with your partners, one of the things that I can always say first is no human, I would say many agents are not grateful. They're not grateful for their partners. I can't tell you how many calls I get. I need you to do this. Done. Or it's my fault that something happened. When I'm going to be honest, it's like 90% of the fault is on the agent. It's usually misinformation. It's not understanding what a home warranty is. It's the client's not understanding the home warranty. And it's in a home warranty industry, there is a lot of difficult information to try to digest in the contract. And it's our job as your partner to explain it to your clients. It's not your job to be the home warranty rep. So making sure that you have gratitude for your rep and expressing it. I'm not talking about, you know, buying them things or doing anything like that, because that's not anything that's expected, but just simply being grateful that they're there and they're helping you and not being demanding. The second tip for working with your, leveraging your partners is investing time. And this is where I think Torie and I have worked well together, is that Torie took time in the beginning to invest in how is OneGuard different. Let's talk about OneGuard. Let's talk about their plans. Let's talk about you, Shelley, and how are you different, so that she can leverage me when it comes to her clients and when it comes to our plans. So with OneGuard, for example, we have services. Our goal is not to be a quick home warranty, put us on the contract and be done. In all of our plans, we have window washing and carpet cleaning and rekey and air conditioning tune-ups. So our goal is that the client can use us right at the beginning, so that when something does break, we're there to help them. And had Torie not invested time in really understanding and learning our plans, she would never have known that. And her team would never have known that. So that's the difference. She took time to invest in us and me and what I can do. The second one is value. So what is the value that I can bring to her team? I am not an order taker at all. I mean, can you call me and put in an order? Yes. It's not the quickest way to do it. It's not the most efficient way to do it. So making sure that we communicate with what is my value. And my value is talking to her clients, educating her clients, being there when she needs me, being there when her clients need me. So what is that value proposition that your partners can to give you? So if it is like at your title rep, so what is the value they can bring to you? Is it just they can produce a marketing material? I doubt it, because every title rep out there can do some kind of marketing material. Is it, so really sitting down with that rep, again, going back to investing time, and really coming up with what is that value proposition? Which ties into the next one, expectations. And I think this is by far the most important one of all of the givers. Expectations. And it goes both ways. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. what would be your expectation of a partner? Anybody? And any partner, it doesn't have to be home warranty.
Communication.
Communication. And what does communication look like to you?
Being ahead of whatever the situation is.
Okay.
Trying to provide answers before those questions.
Okay. And so what does that look like? What do you mean?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Give me a situation.
So let's say your partner is, let's say it's a home inspector.
Okay.
Okay. So what is being ahead of the situation?
With the home inspector, that's a good one. I wasn't expecting a home inspector.
Anybody help them out?
Responsiveness.
Responsiveness. Okay.
If an inspector just found that the AC is completely shot, you know, you and your clients are showing up at 1, he found it at 11, my inspector knows I better text Torie, so I don't walk into it like an idiot, right? Like, oh, everything's pretty good, just that's blown and that's done and the roof had a fire and you want to kind of, that's a good expectation, like, keep me in the loop before it happens, so I know what to expect, right?
Right.
Home warranty, I think I would say that an expectation would be very clear of, hey, if I have this problem, are you going to be there to help me battle that, right?
Yeah. So when you talk about expectations, it's not only what is your expectation and what's my expectation, but making sure you're communicating it. Because a lot of my agents that I work with, I just had my home group agent, for example, and I was helping his client, and then he sent me the nastiest text message after. And he was like, I'm so disappointed in you. I can't believe that this is the way this all, and I was like, whoa. Like, I literally was just following his lead, and his client's responsiveness wasn't there. And, you know, but had he communicated with me, I need this on this by this time, and if you haven't received this message, you know, if you haven't received communication with my client by this time, maybe he knows his client is really slow to respond. Then that would have been something that I would have been aware of and known, and so I wouldn't have like kind of waited. So having that, what's my expectation of you, and back with them, what's your expectation of me? So maybe making that right up in the beginning. So having a meeting with your partners and setting those expectations is really important. Because any agent that I've ever worked with that gets upset with me, it's because there's a lack of communication on expectations. And with Torie giving the example of the relationship she had prior to her relationship with me, Torie has an expectation. She calls you, you better respond. And it doesn't matter if you're on vacation or if you're here or if it's the weekend or if I have my kids, whatever. I know when Torie calls me, especially I've got 2 phones, if she calls me and it's on one phone, I know it means one thing. And I know if it's on another phone, I know it means another thing. So Torie and I already know that, right? And that's an expectation that we've communicated. So really sit down with your partners, especially right now, and say, hey, right now I'm struggling with this. Is there something that you can help me with? Go back to your value proposition. What can you help me with in marketing? I'm gonna do this. You know, I have an expectation that this is gonna happen, and you know, have that relationship, which is R. Developing a relationship and making that relationship respectful. So you can do relationship, respectful, both of them. Knowing that your partners, one of the most misconceptions I would say when it comes to vendors or partners is that I would say besides maybe one different partner field is that we make as much money as realtors. It's not true. I would be a realtor in a heartbeat if I could work at night and the weekends and that kind of thing. But I can't. So understanding and respecting the fact that I have kids, I have a family, I have at night, I do all kinds of things with my kids. I'm predominantly a single mom. So making sure that you understand that and you respect that part of me, and I will respect the relationship that we have, going back to expectations. So just again, having that conversation. The very, very final thing, the most important thing is a system. So in your meeting with your partners that you're going to meet with them now, the market's changing, things are changing, sit down, meet with them. Meet with your home inspector. You would never have thought to do that. Meet with your home warranty person. Never in a million years do PA agents call me and are like, hey, Shelly, can I meet with you? But meet with them, because I guarantee that they have something that they can help you with right now in your business. And they can come up with a system. So for me, I have people right now that the minute they get a first-time home buyer, they call me and say, hey, Shelly, I just started working with Jennifer. Jennifer's a first-time home buyer. She's a single mom, blah, 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 blah. She's gonna be really concerned about air conditioning, freon changes, and she's gonna be concerned about water heaters going out. She's gonna be concerned about all of these things that potentially could come up in a Binzer. Can you go over how a home warranty is going to protect her? And I can make that conversation prior to the home inspector going out, prior to her getting that home inspection report and having that anxiety. I can have all of that conversation in the very beginning to alleviate her concerns and her freaking out and her all of a sudden canceling contracts and not going through. So that's something that I can do, but you have to have a system in place. So make appointments now, sit down with your partners, go over what you need, strategies, because I guarantee maybe they don't have marketing materials for you. Title does a better job on all of that. You don't want me making your marketing materials. But what I can do is come up with systems, as well as the rest of your partners. But the most important thing is just develop a relationship. Don't just call them when you need something. So, whatever you guys need after the class or whatever, if you have questions about partnerships, I have all kinds of them, whether it's big teams, whether it's one-on-one people, one-on-one, if it's an agent that's one person, partners can make you look like you're a huge team. So think about how you can leverage your partners.
Thank you.
Anything to add?
No. Well, I'm just going to recap a little bit, but yeah. So the thing is, guys, I'm not going to kind of go too in depth, but here's one thing I can tell you. The biggest thing that any vendor knows when they work with me, right up front, I give them exactly what they can expect from me, and I give them exactly what I expect from them. I am super respectful of them. I will never curse. In business, I'll curse jokingly, but I will never curse at someone. I never yell at someone, any of that. I set and define exactly what I need from them and what I expect from them, what they're going to get from me, and then we go on our merry little way and we do business. And any vendor knows you are in my circle until you screw up so badly that it causes me a true headache. When that happens, you are out and don't ever come back. Don't pretend like you knew that bridge was there, because that bridge no longer exists. I don't even know who you are. If I saw you in public, I would just smile at you as if I saw you and didn't know you. That's it. Don't come after it. You burned the bridge, you did your damage. Not my problem, okay? But if you set that up front, I've been called a lot of things, but one thing anyone that truly works with me will tell you is she's pretty easy to work with in the fact that she defines exactly how it's going to go. So with title, I have an opener. My whole team knows. When we go under contract, this is the opener. Everything is defined in that opener and everything's attached to it. With home warranty, she said, I found out what their programs were. Hey, Shelley, this is how we're going to do it. We write home warranties into, say, 95% of our contracts, okay? And in the time when nobody was paying for anything, I paid for the home warranty. That's how much I believe in it. What's $650 to give a buyer a little bit more peace of mind for 1 year? Now, I don't go and say to them, don't worry, if your AC goes out, you're going to get a brand new Train unit, 16 SEER. Of course not. Listen, this is what I tell them. A home warranty, just like home insurance, may not cover everything, but it's going to give you a little bit more peace of mind for that first year. That's it. And I have a rep if there's a problem.
And on my end, I've communicated Torie's expectation with my office. So Chris in my office knows Torie. I can email Chris and say, hey, Torie needs, this is one of Torie's clients. And I have another guy, Chris, I have two Chris's, the other guy, Chris, hey, this is Torie. No, I don't even need to go further than Torie.
But it's not a headache down the road, okay? So that's the biggest thing I can tell you. We're not here to talk about your systems and your processes. I'm big on those, but I am telling you, set the expectation up front. You will make your life easier. And I do that with my clients too. I sit down with them and I say, this is what you're going to get from me, but this is what I need from you. And I define how we're going to work together. And everything's going to be amazing. And you're going to be referring me. Before you know it, I'm going to be the only thing you can talk about because this deal was so smooth. But this is what you're going to get from me and this is what I need from you. And I define that right up front. And trust me, enough years and enough volume, if you follow that, it will get you on the right path. Don't treat your business like it's just a whim. Don't treat your business like you're just good at selling houses. Because if you don't have systems and processes, and I can speak from experience, back when the market crashed, and it crashed, right? We imploded. I was really good with people and I was really good at selling houses, but I was terrible at systems. And I had to shuffle quickly. because I was stuck going, oh shit, now what? Now what? Because I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how to shift, because the system helps you shift, okay? So, don't make that mistake. All right, going into everything. Like I said, we're gonna talk about a little bit of objections. We're gonna talk about leverage. Leverage what you know. What is the number one? And you can define it, micro it down. But what do you feel is the number one challenge right now for us as agents? The number one challenge that we're hearing from people across the board as just a lump problem.
People just want to sit on the sidelines and wait.
Interest rates.
What else? Anything? Don't be afraid. I promise there's no wrong answers. All of that though leads to one thing. What is driving that? What's driving them to wait? What's driving them? Oh no, interest rates. It's one thing.
Fear.
Fear. You said that. Yes. Fear. Fear. It's all fear, and fear usually comes from the unknown. Can we agree with that?
Sure.
If I'm afraid, either somebody's chasing me and I don't know who it is, or something's happening and that causes fear because it's the unknown. How do you handle that unknown? How do you handle fear? My belief is facts. If I give you facts and data, now can I overcome some of your fear? And can I find out what your specific fear is by talking to you and asking open-ended questions? Somebody's asking a rate. Do people really have a clue what that rate does? Or do they really worry about their payment?
Yeah.
But that's their fear. Their objection is, oh, the rates are terrible. Well, there's a reason we were calling them historically low rates.
Yeah.
We weren't like, oh guys, this is great, right? No, these are historically low rates. We're in a time in our world that we have never seen something like this before, so guess what? Historically low rates, all of these things. There was a reason we were calling it that. But their fear isn't the rate. They don't have a clue what 4.2 or 5.2 or 6.2. All they know is, oh my God, 6% sounds so high. What's their fear? I can't afford my home. Well, let's find a solution for that. So I believe the number one way that we handle this market, and this is the same in a shifting market, it's the same concept. You just have to change how you're operating, okay? You're still handling fear. Do you know how many times I had clients tell me, right as COVID started, the world's gonna end. The market's gonna crash. What are you gonna do for a living? I'm gonna sell houses. If I gotta look like a surgeon to sell a house, I'm gonna sell houses. And I did. And some of my clients didn't want to go in person, so we did videos. I've been selling houses on video for 8 years. That's nothing new to me. Cool. We'll get all the gadgets and we'll do what it takes. I'll lube up like a big old surgeon in my blue suit, my shoes, and okay, fine. But I sold houses. And that year we doubled our volume. And everybody said we were going to die. Well, how did we do that? Because we answered their fear. To assume that every buyer has the same fear or every seller has the same fear is ignorance. You have to get them to talk to you. You have knowledge, but when we use that knowledge too much up front, we push them further away. Okay? Think of any buying experience you have. If somebody is hot on you, they may have a ton of knowledge. They may have all the data I need. You better back up, dude. I know exactly what I'm here for. I know exactly what I need. Calm down, right? You don't want to be attacked. So we have all the knowledge. We have to be careful that we're not this, I have all this and, what, oh, you're afraid? Oh, rates? And then you just go down the rabbit hole and you're answering all these things and that's not even their fear. So I would encourage you to spend more time listening to a client. When you're in any setting, and someone knows you're an agent, there's very common questions. Hey, what's rates doing? Why do you ask? Why are they asking? Ask them. Why do you ask? Oh, well, now they're going to be caught off guard because what they're expecting you to do is answer, oh, rates are really high. Are they though? Because I was in the industry when 5% was this huge refi boom. So you talk to buyers who are more seasoned and they're like, 5-6%, that ain't terrible. They're not fazed by it as much. It's all these first-time buyers who have more fear. So when somebody asks you a question, ask them, why do you ask? That's a great question. What were you thinking about? And I get them. 3 times of asking them, wise and open-ended questions is going to get them to tell me what their fear is. Once I know their fear, I don't jump in with an answer. I don't go, that's great. I'm like, you'll see me morph with different clients. And depending on their personality, I tend to, okay, that's a really good question. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that really you're concerned about your affordability, your monthly affordability. You don't want to be house poor. Is that kind of what, and I've listened enough to know that's what they're saying, but then they reiterate, yeah, that is. All right, well, let me come up with some solutions with you. Would you be open to just hearing some alternatives, some ideas that may work and give you the affordability, but still put you into something that you're earning equity? And in 2 to 5 years, we upgrade you. Would you at least be open to that? Because I'm big on, if I give you the facts and data, I believe you can make an informed choice. I believe you're not going to regret your decision because at least it's with facts and data. So would you be open to hearing that? And then we sit down and I show them their alternatives and options, okay? So that's number one. With that, dun, dun, dun. I call him the Big Giraffe if you want his nickname. So we're going to just kind of script through for the sake of going too long. But basically, these are questions that we are hearing pretty consistently from our people, like from our clients. And again, my team is trained. I'm huge, if you can't tell, on just data-driven stuff. He's data-driven and explains it to like an investor level. I'm kind of the everyday data-driven. I'm going to explain it to the average person and they're going to get it. But no doubt, anybody that has questions about the market, you can answer it with defined graphs, charts. You do not need to pull up and go, here's every page on the Cromford. They're like, what? Who's the Cromford? It doesn't matter. Here's what I tell people. I subscribe to 8 to 10 different sites, depending on what I'm looking at, that are market prediction sites, okay? My job is to do that so you're not bored doing so. And then I'm going to just give you a small glimpse based on, what their fear is, and I'm going to give you enough data for you to make an informed choice. Fair? And they're like, yeah, that's great. So we're going to go over 4 of them that I've heard pretty consistently between myself and my team. And Preston's going to be the objection handler in this one. So I'm going to wait for a price drop that I like.
Okay, so I always have the conversation up front with clients that I operate way differently than a lot of other agents. I feel like a lot of agents get bad reputations because they're salespeople and they're pushy. I tell clients that my job is not to convince you to buy a house or not to buy a house. My job is to give you a neutral presentation of facts, to do it very accurately, very clearly, and once I do that, you're going to make the best decision for you. So that's the conversation I have up front. Question again?
Hey Preston, I'm just going to wait for a price drop that I like.
Okay. No, and I understand that. The one thing is, I just want to caution you to be careful. The first time that somebody told me that they were waiting for a price drop they like was actually 2015. I remember that conversation very clearly. Now, that same buyer for the same price point that could buy a nice 3 or 4 bedroom house is probably going to be in a condo, if not a manufactured home at today's prices. One quote that I absolutely love actually is from Elon Musk. He said, one of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. Like you want something to be true even if it isn't true. The real truth, because of what you want to be true, this is a very difficult trap to avoid. So I like to present only one slide per objection, if I even have to present a slide. So on this one, what I would do is I would just explain the difference between the bottom of a market and long-term appreciation in investments. Yeah, prices did go down a bit. They've adjusted as interest rates have gone up. But what you'll see is if you bought a house this time last year in 2021, it was actually $32 cheaper per square foot and your interest rate was 3%. So what I would explain to them is it's one thing to try to time the bottom, it's another thing to completely miss it entirely.
That's a powerful, so we've been going over this with my team a lot. That statement right there is very powerful. Okay? And in whatever words you gotta use, you gotta get across to them. It's one thing to think you're timing it perfectly, but it's another to miss it altogether. So these people that were capitalizing at that time on what we were selling was historically low rates, right? That was what the #1 driver was back then. Inventory was at an all-time low, 3,800. These people weren't easy to get homes. They were overpaying, they were bidding, they were nightmare, right? But they did, and now they've made money. So you have to like really get through to them that like hindsight's always 20/20. Okay, so do you want to finish on this chart?
What else you want to
No. So one of the things I want to also say that we've talked about heavily, everybody's talking again about price drops. Have prices truly dropped? So I say to my client, well, what period of time frame are you talking?
Right.
They are not going to know enough to say since the end of May. They won't, I promise you. Well, the last year, that's usually what I've heard. Well, over the last year, well, not necessarily. Actually, we were returning, depending on what market you're looking at, 28 to 30%, let's call it, depending on your market. Any market that returns that amount for that period of long period of time has to correct.
Right.
We're correcting in a healthy manner. So when you're going from 30% and you're returning back to a 6 to 8%, which we have historically been, of course, since the end of May, you feel that adjustment. But if you want to talk about this time, literally today, last year, actually you gained $32 in equity.
even versus the beginning of the year. And right now, the only reason I'm showing price per square foot, we don't typically use that stat a lot. The reason that I use it is because today, the average home you purchased in Phoenix is 135 square feet smaller than it was 2 years ago. And that's just because homes have become more expensive according to appreciation and interest rate increases. So buyers are adjusting. You see how quickly buyer behavior changes when things in the economy or things in the real estate industry change, and that was one thing that changed. So I use this stat only on Metro Phoenix as a whole, or a city as a whole, because it represents per just square foot of livable space. It doesn't matter where it is. And, you know, I realize not every house has a pool, not every house has a mountain view, but when you look at all square feet across the entire city, this is a really good indicator when behavior changes in purchasing.
So we're giving you this big. You can narrow this down for your client. I would encourage you, if you farm a specific market or you work a specific market heavily, that you know off the back of your hand when somebody goes, oh, I live here. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? That actually is returning at about 7.2% right now in the last year. You see what I'm saying? So you have data based on that, like hyper local. If you're farming, not a lot of people farm, but if you do, you need to know it. If you work in one city heavily, have that city data available to you. Okay.
Everybody should buy it across the market index if you have the money to buy it.
Yeah, just don't let multiple people log in. They'll kick you out. Okay, so this is my favorites. You know what? This market is just like 2008.
Okay, I understand, but it is extremely different from 2008. One thing I'd like to show you right now is days of inventory. And this is kind of confusing the first time you hear it, but this is just inventory combined with demand, current demand right now. So this number represents how many days it would take if no new listings were listed, demand didn't change for every single house currently listed in our inventory to sell. So this is an exact representation of supply versus demand. Currently, we're at 68.5 days of supply. What you need to do is you need to look back to 2008. At this time in 2008, we had 380 days of supply.
How is the market different? There's a great graph, guys.
Okay? What I've started doing since then
If I freeze you out, let me know.
is I've started comparing today to normal years. Because 19, 20, 21 were not normal years. We had artificially low interest rates where the government subsidized interest rates in a way that brought them down to a level that had never happened before. So people's purchasing power increased dramatically. So our last normal years were between 2014 and 2018. So what I've done is I'd like to compare days of inventory versus where we were right here in 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And you'll see we're at 68.5. In 2018, we were at 60.7. In 2014, we were at 112.9. We're actually still pretty low as far as inventory versus our actual demand. And the one thing that I'd also like to point out is that this chart doesn't take into account population growth. And and we're growing between 150 and 200,000 people in population per year. So realize that as more homes are built and there's a larger population, obviously we'll have more homes and more days on market.
Now, everybody has heard the objection that we're not like 2008 because we don't have bad lending practices, which is factual, right? But to the average consumer who doesn't know bad lending practices and doesn't know those terrible loans written, isn't this a lot more powerful?
Yeah.
We're nothing like 2008, and that's where you've got to be able to show them data that they can see with their eyes and have just enough knowledge on the data to explain it to where it makes sense to them. Because now the fear of, what's the fear of 2008? Oh my God, we're gonna crash and I'm gonna lose everything. That's their fear, but is that the fact? Now you've gotta take them back to data.
I like this because it's visual, but the biggest indicator of 2008 was that for 2 consecutive years in 2005 and 2006, home prices went up while rents went down. If there's one sign of an artificial market that's an absolute mess and there's false demand in the market, it's that home prices keep going up while rental prices keep going down. That doesn't make any sense. Anybody that looked at that should have known that was happening.
Got dark. Okay, is that helpful? You
Yes.
guys can take screenshots of it, but they're also recording this too. I really encourage you, like I said, to know the data. Data is going to help you with a lot of concern. All right, I'm gonna wait for the interest rates to come down.
That's an interesting one because I completely understand that interest rates seem very high right now because they were, like I said, artificially low. The government was subsidizing mortgage-backed securities, which made interest rates artificially low. What we do know, and just yesterday, was the inflation, the CPI report. And we know that CPI isn't directly tied to mortgage rates, but in the end, through trickle-down economics, it really is. We saw inflation increase. The Fed has already made an announcement that they're going to do another 0.75% hike, and they're expecting to do a third one this year. So this is the fastest Fed increases we've seen in 40 to 50 years. I can safely say that if I had to make a bet right now, I would bet that interest rates would go up just based off of the data we have right now today. But what I would probably point you to is a website that I use called the Fred Research Institute. It's a fantastic resource and it tracks so many things for all the way back to the 1970s, which I think is really important because you see a lot of cycles in the economy and in real estate. And what you'll actually find is that before 2010, on a national average, we've actually not seen interest rates below 5%. And before 2000, we've actually seen interest rates on a national level below 6.5%. So historically, we're not unusual. And in fact, I would probably say that we're heading into a period of higher than normal interest rates. And I definitely would be betting right now that interest rates are going to come down in the short term. The good news is that mortgage rates are basically like blackjack, except for you're the dealer. So you get to wait to see how everything else unfolds, and if you see a better deal, you can just refinance. What you want to do is purchase when it's hard for people to purchase because prices are lower. Then you can just go and refinance your house. We have some great plans, and Torie's going to explain to you how to do that, because you can always refinance, you can't go back and purchase.
Correct. And you can't go back and purchase at yesterday's prices, right? So we're going to talk about another graph where I believe we're in a very short window of negotiating like a killer. I believe that sellers are more desperate. We're seeing it in our own deals. We're seeing people that would never negotiate. Sure, 3% closing costs, home warranties are back, right? And you get repairs. And even sellers, if something happens at the end, they're like, we'll push closing out, we're good. They don't want to go back on market. Okay, so I believe that we're in a rare opportunity. And again, guys, when you're in a market that shifts, you have got to change what you're saying and how you're doing things. You can't have the same beat to your day. Now, practices and habits, absolutely. Get up every day, up at 5, do this at 6, be here at 7, right? Like those absolutely stay within that habit. But what I'm telling you is the way you're delivering things to clients has to shift when the market shifts. You have to understand what their current fears are and how to answer their current fears, okay? So when we talk about rates, one of the best programs that I'm finding out there now, I can say this as a blanket, I will tell you with every client I work with the lender directly, okay, to ensure that it's the best program fit. It's the same thing I do with my title company. I actually partnered up with Navi to have a specific way. So my team uses Navi Phoenix, and anybody that uses Navi Phoenix, their expectation is they get exactly what I have done. Meaning the way I expect title to behave, it saves people time. So when somebody goes, oh, in Navi Phoenix, they're like, got it, you want it Torie's way, okay? And that's just, it's just independent people that are using them, but the process is a set way. That's how meticulous I am with the way I want things handled. So anyway, when you look at lending, a 2-1 buy down. Now everybody's heard of a 2-1 buy down. I'm not telling you anything new, but there is a 2-1 buy down. I know of 2 lenders offering it, okay? One of them is one of my lenders. And what this buy down does is it sets the amount. So let me just give you a scenario. We just did one on a $436,000 purchase price, okay? We got 3% from the seller, plus a home warranty. That 3% covered the cost of the buy down, which was $69.70, just under $7,000. And the rest of the money paid for all of the closing costs. Buyer came out of pocket $0, except for their down payment. And that 2-1 buy down, how it works is, they were able to lock in at a really incredible rate. 4.875 was their rate, okay? I think prior to that, he just caught it on a good day. Prior to that, it was like 5.25, what the rate was gonna be. They locked in at 4.875, even if it was 5.25, doesn't matter. How it works, we'll go with the 4.875. Year 1, the rate is 2% lower, so 2.875. Second year, rate is 1% lower, 3.875. The money that it costs, that $69.70, sits in an impound account, just like it would for their taxes and their insurance with the servicer. So when it funds, it goes to the servicer. The servicer draws the variation between the actual payment and what the client is paying for 2 years. Here's why I love that though. We could go into depth, I'm not gonna, but let's just, like I said, I'm big on resources and data, and a lot of the data we're seeing is Q2 of next year. We're seeing the projections of rates being in the low 4s. Cool. So at 4.875, if that client refinances and gets 4.2, perfect. If every month they use the amount, was it $387, I think?
Something like that.
It was like the first, every month, it was like $387 for the first year. It's subsidizing that payment. Second year was like $187, whatever it is. $397 and $187, that's exactly what it is. We covered it yesterday. So anyway, that $69.70, $397 every month is going towards it. But let's say in 8 months, that client wants to refinance. Whatever is left in that account covers the cost of the refinance. Why wouldn't you take that? Why wouldn't you buy at today's rates, right? But buy at today's market where you're getting an opportunity to negotiate and get a deal and get sellers to pay for that, and then take the refinance. Now, if it doesn't work out and you're at 5.25 or 4.875, that's still a phenomenal rate. It's not 6.5. Rates from 5 to 6 are relatively normal. You've given them a solution. And when they look at those numbers, you give them all the data and you paint all that and you show them how much money would be there. I haven't had a buyer yet that was like, this doesn't work for me. So having those unique programs, how do I find those unique programs? I beat my lenders up on a weekly basis. Guys, what else is coming out? What else do we have? We have to find a reason for someone to want to buy. Give them a reason, because all they're hearing is the fear of, oh my God, rates are high. But inventory is also back. Inventory has increased. There's objectives there too, right? Like, we won't go into that because that's not this class, but there's objectives around, there's too much inventory, okay. So, but we will cover that briefly. So that 2-1 buy down, not just an average 2-1 buy down, but if I didn't have that knowledge, how much power would I really have to bring people solutions to show them the bargains?
Question on the 2-1 buy down.
Yes.
2 questions for you. How difficult is it for the buyer to qualify for that? And the second question, how difficult or challenging is it to get that seller to comp that 3%?
Not difficult, not
Why?
right now. Because there's 19,000, it was yesterday, 19,401 properties active on the market. At our lowest, we were at 3,800. Now, I'm not including UCBs and under contract, say, just active. So when we had 3,800, demand was here, supply was here, a mess, okay? But now we're not. Now we have about what we'd like to see. We would like to see about 25,000 in a normal market. And 60% of those active listings are from institutional investors who over leveraged. You looked at an open door offer, Pat, any of that lately? Oh, they're 3,500. Commission, 2.25. Bonus, $3,500. Also, they'll pay closing costs. We have one right now, we had to extend the closing by 30 days. Yep, we're good. They're willing to negotiate because they're over leveraged. But also, with supply and demand being relatively close to even, we have negotiating power again. Sellers want to sell their home and they're willing to negotiate. So getting 3% isn't hard. The other thing is that qualifying, it's an FHA program or a conventional, I mean, they have different ones. This buyer went with the FHA version of it. Why? Because the MI was lower overall. So that exact scenario, the buyer was putting $55,000 down, okay? Sorry, $56,000 down. So in 6 to 8 months, there's only a small percentage that we would need to drop that MI. So even if rates got high and they kept that 4,875, in 2 years, having that like 25,000, I think it was, or $30,000 in equity gain, they'll be able to drop that MI. So they're still gonna have a much lower payment than projected. But again, guys, do you hear how much detail that is? I'm not a lender, I don't care to be. But I had to learn enough to be able to explain A, to myself, B, to my agents, and then C, to have that lender really paint that picture for them. But if I wouldn't have known that, that buyer wouldn't have bought. Because the rates that were being quoted prior to that were high like 5.8 to 6. So that was a solution. Okay, so let's a little bit touch on that. There's way too much inventory.
Way too much inventory. So it's easy to look at how many houses that are available today and say that we have too much inventory, and that's just because the last 2.5 years were absolutely crazy and inconsistent with how real estate actually is in Phoenix and as well as other places. The one thing I'd like to do, like I said before, is always touch back on what typical years are for real estate, because I'm not going to compare it to last year, I'm not going to compare it to 2 years ago, I'm going to go back to where real estate was normal. We saw 7 to 10% appreciation per year since like 2013. So currently right now, we're at 19,422 active listings, not including UCB under contract and pending. This is Maricopa County as a whole. If you were to look at like Metro Phoenix and take off like Maricopa and New River and some of the cities we don't typically service, we're more like in the 15s. So you'll see some different numbers when you see stats and flyers that people put out. So what I'd like to do is compare this number right here to 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Not only has it leveled off, but you actually find that we're still slightly low as far as inventory goes. And once again, the one thing I'd like to explain is that this doesn't adjust for population growth. We're growing at about 1 million people per decade in additional population. And so as the city continues to grow and we have more population and more homes being built, the number of active listings will continue to increase, or should increase, assuming we're building enough. But that won't show up on this chart because we'll need to have more active listings for a larger population pool. And again, when you go back to like 2008, you start seeing a little bit of a difference. I think 53,000 listings would probably be noticeable. We probably all have a different opinion of what's actually happening in the market. I think our clients would too.
Yeah, and we do. We mix in a little bit of humor. Like his personality, mine, we do. We mix in humor with it, so we're not like boring the client. But data, guys. So a couple of things I can leave, like just keep in your mind. When somebody asks you, I'm waiting for the rates to drop. What makes you think that's gonna, like, where are you getting that information? What makes you think that's gonna happen? Put it in their lap, because most of them don't have a clue. They need to verbally say, they're not gonna say I'm an idiot, I don't have a clue, but they're gonna say, well, I'm Oh, I was watching on the news? Okay. Is there anything that you've seen that is, like, I'm getting them to the point where they're like, I don't know,
Right.
tell me. Because then I can pull this out and go, well, again, just guys remember, I'm gonna try not to bore you, but I really operate on data because I believe a decision made on data is gonna make you feel confident in your choice. So let me just show you a couple of things that I think are contrary to what you're saying that rates are gonna drop. Or, again, so you can apply that, what makes you think that's gonna happen? Or what are you seeing that's causing you to think that? Do you see what I'm getting at? Like open-ended to make them regurgitate that they don't know.
Yeah, I would do, if you guys are having trouble getting people to commit to buying right now, I would go through just a simple 3-step process. Number one, find out what the fear is, just like she's been talking about. Make sure you actually find out what the true fear is, not just what they're saying. Like you walk onto a car lot and, you know, somebody comes up to you and they're like, what are you looking for? Are you gonna get something today? No matter what, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm just looking around. I don't want to talk to you. Really ask them what their true fear is, and when you do that, they'll open up to you and they'll realize that you're looking out for their best interest. After you find out what their fear is, show them an extremely simple, straightforward representation of exactly where that fear stands today versus where it stood historically. A chart like this is super easy. It doesn't take, you can even text this with a couple sentences. And then show them a deal. That's what I think people aren't doing right now. Is, you know, if I saw a stock at a deal right now, I'd buy it. If I saw gold at a deal right now, I would buy it. So once you've addressed their fear, found out what it is, and shown them a deal, whether that's mortgage rates 2-1 buy downs, whether it's prices now versus where they were 3 months ago, or 6 months ago, or where they're headed in all projections, show them an actual true deal that fits what they're wanting. And if you do those 3 things, it rarely will people not do it. What you're trying to do is get at least 50% of the people you're talking to commit to buying once you've gone through those 3 steps.
And you can do it without being a salesman. There's nothing that irks me more than listening to somebody sell a house. Come on. Like between that and then the last thing I want to touch on is just, you hear it everywhere. I'm going to turn this off because remember I told you I get blinded. You hear it everywhere, but video is important and everybody's afraid of video. Like, listen, if you're afraid of video, your face looks what your face looks like. You sound like you sound. You can't be like, I don't even, he has seen many of my videos. If you follow my social, you'll hear me flub a word. I just keep going. Why? Because that's real. So I just, and trust me, I have the gamut. I went out and I had all the equipment purchased, all the cameras. I looked like I had a whole setup. I had people. I've even brought in people from California that film for Disney, whatever. I've done it all. My best videos that I get the most on are just my little ring light and my camera, and I shoot the video and it's like a minute or less, okay? The thing is, when you do the video, and this is like my pet peeve, we're still professionals, okay? Like these realtors that are jumping around and that like, okay, that is like not what the video I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a funny TikTok, that's stupid to me, because what is the purpose of a video? If the purpose of the video is for somebody to laugh at you and follow you, great, do all that. But if the purpose of the video is to paint that you are the market expert and you are their real estate consultant, get away from agent. You're either a real estate consultant, which is my favorite, or a real estate professional. I love a consultant. When you go to invest your money, do you just go to the teller? No, you go to an investment specialist, right? You go to somebody with a better title. Don't be a realtor, don't be a real estate agent, be a real estate professional. Now, again, the videos I'm talking about are creating you to be the market expert. You are the one that has the data that they're looking for. And we can always laugh about used cars, but one thing I'll say to you, when you step on a used car lot, and the first thing you say is, or a new car lot, whatever, car salesman in general, just if you do that, are you really there just because you want to walk around the fucking blacktop for funsies? No. Why are you there? Because you have some sort of interest. Something. Something has brought you there. Same thing with real estate. If you're buying online leads and they've clicked get information, or you get a call, or whatever it is, whatever your source is, your sphere, you're at a dinner party, whatever the source is, the grocery store,
That house.
open house. Anytime somebody goes, I'm just looking, it's because instantly they don't want to be sold. Back off and just talk to them. And the number one thing I can push every time is get them to talk to you because they have an interest in doing something. Now maybe their interest is they've heard they've got all this equity and they don't want to sell, but man, it could help to pull some equity out. Maybe you just for that instant become advice for them. If you pulled out this, if you did that, you could pay for that, right? There's equity in your home, that's an option. I think you were in the class where I talked about 100 unsolicited CMAs. It's nothing new. I've been talking about it for a while, but why is it important? You take 100 people, whether you know them, you do not have had, it doesn't have to be a client. Could be your friends, your family, it doesn't matter. The average person knows right now they have a lot of equity. Do you think they know exactly how much? They know what Zestimate says. They know what the Zillow site says. They know what Realtor.com says. Is that accurate? No. Why? Because it's a computer algorithm. And when people ask me that, why is this estimate different? Well, it's a computer. And the computer, depending on the data put in, is going to pull up what the computer believes is the value of your home. You want the real value? And then I just do an unsolicited, just one-line comps. I don't give too much. Again, simple. 5 properties in their immediate area, 1 lines. So it's 1 paper, and on the bottom you have all that space. Hey, John, what a great choice you made to buy this home. Just wanted you to see, you're sitting at about X in equity. 50 to 75 grand in equity, 100 to 150 grand in equity. Great job purchasing when you did. Give me a call if you have any further questions on it. I might just sign my name. Handwritten. Now, you don't want to do all that? Cool. Do you have a teenager in your life? Pay $18 an hour. But I calculated this should take you 2 hours, do you see? So you control that. But I'm just saying, you need to start to be the resource. Video is a great way to do it. But make sure you're giving data that somebody is wanting to remember. When someone in my social sees my videos and they think, I'm gonna sell my house. Do you know how many people reach out to me in messengers? Hey, I was thinking about selling my house, I'm really not sure. No, not a problem. How about I just come over and see it and we'll see what it's worth. And then you can make a decision if it's even enough equity. Again, is anybody gonna tell you no when you give them the option? Could I just give you a little bit more data so you can make a choice? And even if you don't sell, at least you know what's in your home. No pressure. Okay. So that's, we've hit the hour. Anything you guys want to throw at me, whether it be scripting questions or challenges or anything I didn't cover, anything I can help with, like I said, I'm here for you. It's a big thing to me. I believe that if we can all educate more, make our industry better, that's an amazing feat. Yes?
Use a pre-foreclosure lists and all from your title company or what people talk about prices, everyone's looking for a deal.
Pull it up.
Wholesalers, auctions, so I'll defer to.
Absolutely, you
lists.
can get that list. Here's what I tell my clients when they ask me. I say, one of the things I want to show you though, is in a market where people have increased about 30% across the board, why would anybody foreclose? Because they're sitting on a ton of equity.
Yeah, so then I have
Oh, I gotta turn this on.
I have stats that I'll just cut out.
I just want to show you this one slide because I love this slide.
You want to plug it in there?
I just want them to see the pre-foreclosure rate. Sorry. Another slide. No, but I believe slides are really simple to show somebody versus your opinion, right? So I just tell them, the market's returned about 30%. I mean, why would somebody let it foreclose when they could literally even sell it to a wholesaler and make money? But let me show you this chart, and I'm going to show you what statistically is happening with foreclosures, just so you're aware. Now, if you want to keep looking for pre-foreclosures, I can define that out, I can look for that, but just understand we're probably looking for a very thin needle in a big haystack. And
So,
then,
yeah, so I'll screenshot and just take these bottom 4 lines of the Crawford Market Extended recap. So this shows lender-owned active and lender-owned percent of sales. So we're at 0.1%. So it's
I don't know how to zoom in. Can you guys see it?
yeah. So
There we go.
that's 1 out of 1,000, right? If you look to where we were 2 years ago, which is this line, we're at 25% of that. We're actually between 10 to 20% of the foreclosure rate we were at 5 years ago, and that's exactly because of the value people have in their homes. When you go to pre-foreclosure percentage and active, it did go up a little bit this month, but it was an amount that they couldn't even show. We're still down considerably from 2 years ago, and pre-foreclosure sales is going down as well. So I mean, it's 0.7%.
Does that help?
But that's still compared to like what you actually need to see to get deals. And what I found, so I'm a flipper. So what I found actually is that anytime a pre-foreclosure pops up, it gets like so much activity that it ends up selling for way more than it should. I would rather go for a house that's been on the market 150 days and absolutely gouge somebody.
But yes, you can use your vendors to pull those lists. You can also mess around. He does a lot of pre-foreclosure foreclosures.
Yeah, I do get that. Maybe 10% of the objections I get are that. That's a good one.
And what sites do you use to find them, you personally?
Foreclosures. I can go through, and there's actually like pre-foreclosure and foreclosure historical numbers and stuff, but I would pull it for them. If you guys want, like, I'm happy to have my number and my entire team, anytime they get in a conversation where they want a quick stat, they'll screenshot the conversation with their client. You can mark off the phone number. I'm not trying to steal anybody, and text it to me, and I'll send you whatever.
Yeah, this is what, again, I have built a platform, because just like I believe about vendors, you are stronger on a solid big base, right? If I'm standing on one pole, me, myself, and I'm only that strong. But if I've built a pillar underneath me of my vendors and my team, how strong am I? Pretty unbeatable. I mean, I could say, if I was up against any one of your clients and they had the objections and we had to go toe to toe, you don't have to tell me, but after this class, who do you think would win that client's decision? That's what I'm trying to get people to realize. If you do things a little bit better, just a little bit differently, and not, I sold a house. Well, you did your fucking job. Great. I sold 100, 200. You know what I'm saying? Like, big deal, dude. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that side of your success. What they do care about, though, I sold a house to Joe, and Joe was a veteran, and he had moved to Phoenix, and he just couldn't find anything that fit what he was looking for. But Joe just moved into his new house, and it's everything he wanted. It's got a yard, and there's a picture of Joe and a picture of his yard. I'm so happy, Joe. Thank you for letting me help you. Do you see the difference? I sold a house, who cares? I helped Joe, who was a veteran. And paint the picture. My first-time home buyers with 2 babies have been renting for 5 years, throwing away this much money. They finally own a home. Tell the story of your client. That's what people want to hear. Not how good you are at what you do. You better be, but you can tell that by giving data and facts. Would any of you, not even knowing me, would any of you question now that I'm good at my job? Because I've given you data. So, is there any, did I answer that?
Yeah.
Is that what you, okay. Anything else?
I want to add really quick. So Lizzie Hofer mentioned once about videos. Nobody's going to watch them in the beginning, so it doesn't matter necessarily like what your content is or whatever. Just do them. But I second Torie, and don't make yourself look like an ass or desperate. Like, I'll look, because I have a million Facebook friends that are, or Instagram or whatever, that are realtors, and I'll look at them and be like, oh my God, you look so desperate. You look so desperate. And like, I just shake my head. So just don't look desperate. But just do them, because in the beginning, honestly, it's just getting it out there.
And there, again, your face is your face.
So.
Other questions?
And all your faces are beautiful.
Yeah.
At least it's not on the wrong side, right? But it's more than your face. Who are the 2 lenders that you use to buy those?
The one that I use for that is Matt Weber, Fairway Mortgage. I'm happy to give you his info. And I use Lizzie as my other lender, but she doesn't have the program. I already tried. The only other lender I know of was because he happened to be reaching out to me, and I always tell people, don't call me, don't bother me. But one of my clients had worked with him, and so he thought he had an in. Nice guy. And I was like, hey, by the way, so that one, I don't even know his company. I just know him because he told me. But those are the only two lenders I've heard of. And Matt at Fairway.
Citywide down the road doesn't.
Do they?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
do with the escrow,
With the hold?
because that's a big deal,
Yeah,
right?
the 2-1 everyone does, don't get me wrong. It's where they hold that money in that account and you can use it to refinance. That's the uniqueness of that.
And that's the deal that you're showing them. It's like, oh, you think interest rates are going to go down? Perfect. Let's do a buy down right now, and you'll get a free refi if it goes down in the next year.
When you're looking at vendors and who you're using, I think it's important. I love the, let me buy you a cocktail. Buy my own fucking cocktail, thank you. Like, I don't have time to go sit and be schmoozed by all these people. So I've always been a firm believer in having, if it's a lender, I have my two, like my go-tos, right? My absolute go-to. Yes, legally, if somebody asks me if I have 3, I can give them 3, fine, whatever. But I have my 2 that are my go-tos. And I gauge personality, like this is who I think Matt's a fit for, this is who I think Lizzie's a fit for. But with my title, I have 1 title company. With my inspector, I have 1 inspection company. And they, again, home warranty, I don't just, oh, you want to give me money for my event? Sure, I'll use you. I don't do that. You're watered down. Go with your relationships. And I don't even ask my vendors for stuff like that. I ask them to take care of my clients. And then if once a year they help with something, that's on them. I don't ask for that. Yes?
Does that 2-to-1 buy down work on like a much higher priced house, like over $1 million?
So that's a great question. And I would
yes.
refer that, it does, but again, getting into the specifics, I can't say it now, specifics of it, this would be the point where my client said it, this would be my exact answer. That is a phenomenal question, so much like you know, I stay in my lane, I'm really good at this side of things, but my lender's gonna have the ins and outs of how that works. I think the best thing to do, would you be available for like a 5-minute call with him just to answer how it looks? Yes, they do them, but I know there's parameters to it. Are you good with that? You see that? Because I know it works. I know he can do it. Do you know the parameters?
No, I mean, there's obviously going to be percentages. Are you talking like $1 million? Are you talking jumbo?
Between $1 million and probably 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the
you wanna check
jumbos.
with them.
Yeah, and in the jumbos, there might be a better program for that fit. But again, that's where I literally work. I'll call my lender and say, "This is the guy's deal. This is where we're at. This is what I need you to do." And then he gets on the phone and he analyzes it, gets them on board. He does the same. Again, what was the expectation for my lenders? Same thing. I do not want you to tell them your opinion. That doesn't matter. No buyer wants to hear, well, the best loan is this without a why. They want to know why. If you're telling me FHA is better than conventional, in this case, I want to know why. And then he'll give me an overview of that, just in case my client says, well, and I go, yeah, he mentioned that because the MI was less. Right?
Just last week, I had a client that was trying to buy their neighbor's house and either turn it into a rental or turn their current home into a rental. And they've been there for 2 years. And they were like, well, what can I do? Do I make this a rental? Do I still get my tax exemption? Do I get this and that? And I called Matt, and Matt was like, called them up and was like, here are your 3 loan options. This is how much each is going to cost and everything. And in like 5 minutes, like not only did I connect a buyer with a lender and they wanted to be connected versus like, can I reach out to call you?
Yeah.
And he gave her 3 options and one of them worked perfectly. So.
Also, how would you convince somebody to use you over, say, a good friend?
Yeah. Oh, we just talked about this, huh, Brad? So here's my answer every time. So number 1, I am going to spend some time at the beginning listening to what are their behavioral patterns? Like, what are the things that I know? So when I deal with a first-time buyer, I'm very much more direct, motherly. I'm always direct, right? But if I deal with a seasoned, like one of my guys that he uses me all the time, I'm different with him. I'm not going to be motherly, whatever with him. But I would find out kind of their personality, and then I would definitely get them and I'd say, listen, I completely respect, because the reason I say this, if they're a huge family-driven person, you're going to be up against a different challenge. Like if they're one of those, the personalities where it's like, oh, my family, right? And I'm more like, I don't give a shit. If we're related, what can you do? Good, that's what I want. So what I would say to them is, I completely respect the fact that you're wanting to use somebody that's a family or a friend, okay? But what I challenge you to think about is, if you want a friendship, go to dinner, go have drinks, go have fun with them. But if you want a professional who's going to negotiate for you, who's fierce at this, who does this daily, and who's not going to cloud the water with the fact that you're my friend, there is no clouding of that. I am black and white, I am here to protect you, that is my job. Then I'd say choose a professional. Make sure somebody has just your interest at heart and that the friendship doesn't cloud decisions.
And I'm a very new realtor, so I think probably joining a team to get that listing would be a great idea.
Yeah, and
Just so the others-
teams can be, you have to understand, so I've been in this long enough that the old brokerage model, where it was like the brokerage, and I had my brokerage, and then mega brokerages came over, and then it was different model. Now it's a team model. I think if you go to any Inman, any Tom Ferry, any huge conference, the one thing they've been talking about for the last 5 years is that individual agents are kind of dead. And I don't mean that in a way that if you're an individual, you're dying. I'm just saying, if you look at the model as a whole, the team model works. Why? Because you control the feeling of that through the team, right? So we're at my home group, but the way I do my team is different than the way the Saunders teams work. So you just see what I'm saying? So I think that the team model, if you're interviewing teams, you need to really find somebody that culture, that you're a fit with. What is your expectation? What are you looking for? What do they offer? What is their expectation?
That then pushes you.
To start tackling that, you always want to try to escalate the method of communication. So if you're texting this person, just say, hey, I understand, I completely understand. Can I have 5 minutes on the phone with you to talk about what it is we do? No pressure. If it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. If you're already talking on the phone, then I would try to escalate to a sit down. Give me 15 minutes, I'd love to see your house. I might have a buyer for it, even if it's not something that works out as far as listing your house. So just continue to try to escalate the method of communication. It always helps a lot.
I'm gonna get kicked out in a minute.
Kelly's gonna start melting down in a
So
minute.
if you guys, my office, one of ours is there, one's here, I'll be in this one.
We're here
If you
all
have any
day.
other questions, we're happy to help. But what I would ask of you is that you please fill out, there's a survey that's gonna go out, because I do not mind ever taking the time to do a class and to share information to help you guys be better. But I also like to do it on subjects that people want to hear about. So if you have that, fill out that survey, and if we get, those requests, happy to do another class. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
for presenting.
I turned the air down so they'll freeze when we get in here.